Yes, we're back and we are talking about women's rugby because Ilona Maher made her Premiership women's rugby debut for Bristol Bears. It was a record crowd corps, over 9,400 who were in at Ashton Gate. That's insane for just a regular season game with big viewing figures across various networks, of course, including the Rugby Network. You can go and watch it again on TRM+. New York Post were talking about it. New York Times were talking about it. It is so good for the game, man, isn't it? Just to have her being involved in PWR.
It's incredible. Obviously, more than doubling the sort of Bristol Bears record for home attendance, getting it from small venue, moved to Ashton Gate.
Massive.
Sort of. And then the thing as well, made her debut. They obviously didn't win, but she's now sort of got that sort of monkey off her back in 15s. Yep. But what I loved is that she stayed for 90 minutes after kickoff, signing autographs.
The photos.
The only other player I have ever seen do something like that is Johnny Wilkinson. When 2011, when I played with him in England in the World Cup year, that's the sort of stardom we're talking about. There's not many other rugby players who are going to have 90 minutes for fans waiting.
I'll tell you what, she's bigger than Johnny Wilkinson as well.
100%.
Talking to PWR though, you mentioned Bristol Bears did lose that game, 40 points to 17 against Gloucester Hartbury. Let's take a look at that league table for PWR. You can see Harlequins are in top, and then in 5 actually is where the Bristol Bears are. Exeter Chiefs in 3rd, but they have 2 games in hand. Corbs, the PWR, as you can see there, it is tight. And also, there's so much USA talent, not just Ilona, Alev Kelter, I Hope Rogers, Kate Zackary. It's a really good competition, man.
It's incredible. 21 US Eagles playing in it, the best league in the world for women's professional rugby at the moment. Getting our sort of Eagles playing at that high level, amazing. But the on-field product is just getting better and better. The competitiveness throughout the competition is getting better and better. And it's just in time for the World Cup in 2025. And all those eyeballs that could be on it, especially with the PWR being in England, the same place as the World Cup. Very exciting times.
Well, let's get a man on to talk about those exciting times and potentially where Ilona might play in that USA squad, because he's the man in charge. It is Sione Fukofuka. He is the head coach for USA Eagles Women's. Let's get him on to talk all things 2025. It's a big year ahead. Sione, thank you for joining us on the Rugby Rundown. This is a big year, as Corbs and I have said. And of course, then there's the added bit of stardom that is Ilona Maher and what she's doing for women's rugby. Let's get straight into it, Sione. How exciting is it for you seeing Ilona and what she's doing for the women's game?
Oh, it's massive, isn't it? The groundswell that she's generating, the interest in the game itself, rugby full stop, but more in particular, the women's game has been huge, and it's obviously a really big year for us overall with the World Cup. So the more interest that she generates, the more interest flows into the World Cup, which will be a pretty special occasion in August.
I kind of feel like the Ilona Maher effect is similar to the Caitlin Clark effect with the WNBA, and just opening those eyeballs onto what is already an amazing year, professional league and PWR, a lot of your players playing over there, and a World Cup coming on at the end. How an exciting an opportunity to get that exposure, but also we get to see the best women's rugby probably that we've ever seen as the game keeps evolving in its infancy and professionalism.
Absolutely. The game, probably in the last 3 years since the last World Cup, has come along leaps and bounds from a professionalism point of view. But the tactics and the technical skills of the women have come a long way. And clearly, getting the exposure can only benefit it. Can only add more support to it. And hopefully, at some point, bring some of our players in the WPR back to the US to ply their trade.
Now, with Ilona, though, there is the rugby question, and you are the man to talk to us about it in terms of the head coach. I'm not putting you on the spot, but you mentioned Caitlin Clark. She didn't go to the Olympics, though, man, which is interesting. How can you tell us, is there an action plan that you've got you think Ilona can fit in? Is there a position you're looking at her? What position she might fit in? Because she's gone to Bristol, ultimately, to play and then get in your USA World Cup squad.
Yeah, to be fair, Ilona and I had a conversation all the way back in May 24, along with a number of the other Sevens players who expressed interest in being involved in the World Cup. Ilona herself clearly has taken a big step at going to Bristol, going to a really competitive team, but also the best league in the world. So in short, there is a plan in place that clearly will hopefully give her the opportunity to develop her 15s, because we know what she can do on the sevens field, and that's exciting. But translating that into 15s is now the challenge, and I'm pretty excited that she's at a club like Bristol who play such an attacking style of football, and you saw little glimpses on the weekend when she made her debut. For me, we're looking in particular in that back three that we've spoken about on the wing. Obviously, she's had experience there, but one area I would like to look at her is in that 13 jersey. I think finding in the midfield more touches closer to the ball will allow her to do what she does well. And there's another layer to her that potentially isn't as exposed much as that skill set that she's developed in the sevens, not just the carry, not just the physicality, which is all clear and obvious there, but also her ability to express the space and to use her decision-making in that wider channel is an exciting part and can add value to how we want to play the game.
Yeah, I also just think as well, opportunities of set piece launches and stuff to be creative with her as an option, because she does have that sort of all court game that Sevens has given her, and her offload game's pretty mean as well. It gives you some creative options to launch from as well when you have, extra pieces like that have that sort of versatility.
Absolutely. Like, we're building obviously a level of depth across the back line, but having her as a threat, Alev potentially on her shoulder or in that space as well, suddenly puts a lot of stress and pressure on the defence to make decisions, and then can only open up space for other players in that back line and hopefully create scoring opportunities.
You mentioned Alev Kelter there. Like, we have got to also talk about, we can talk about Ilona all day. She's amazing. We love her she's friend of the show. But there is lots of American talent in that PWR, Alev Kelter being one of them, Kate Zackary being another, Hope Rogers.
Don't steal my thunder.
I will let you come to her in a minute. But just for you, how important is this competition for this USA squad, even though it is on foreign soil?
Yeah, it's tough, obviously, for the girls to have to go overseas to ply their trade, but the PWR is the best domestic competition in the world. They're playing against international players week in, week out, and playing with international. You mentioned Lev. She's playing inside Emily Scarrett, one of the best 13s that England has had. So, yeah, it's a massive part of our preparation, and, it's an opportunity for the players to go and hone their craft, as what Ilona's doing, but then also take their games to another level against the best opposition. And then, there's the added attraction to it. It's in England, where the World Cup's going to be, and they are playing against and with, as I said, international players. So they're learning their tendencies and their traits, and it can only be beneficial for us when they come back to the USA jersey.
And just kind of coming back to the USA jersey, huge year for you guys. You have obviously the Pac 4 that then rolls into the World Cup in the summer. What are some goals from you and as a coach and the team in that sort of run into the Pac 4, but also in the run into the World Cup?
Yeah, so we're lucky. We have an opportunity on home soil to play Japan at the end of April, and then Canada in May before we head to Australia and New Zealand. So for us as a team, clearly we talk about processes and systems, which we felt we were able to establish in 24. Now it's about refining those and improving them and chasing results. As much as the growth in the team is evident, and we were able to go to WXV1 and compete in all of our games, we didn't come away with the results. So, now our challenge is to harness, obviously, the playing talent that we have, to implement those systems and keep pushing ourselves to be world-class and come away with results. So big challenge first up with Japan to lay a foundation, but then Canada, number 2 in the world, is super exciting, and we want to take a really good performance out of that into the Australia test, which, we play Australia twice next year. So the more times we get to beat them, the better it is for us as a program, and clearly leading into the World Cup adds a lot of confidence.
I'm going to let you do your Hope Rogers question, and then I'll wrap it up.
And obviously we talked about some of the stars from Kate Zackary, Ilona Maher, Alev Kelter, but someone I think deserves their dues as well for me is Hope Rogers.
The front row club.
I think there's a strong argument she would hold the loose head jersey in your World 15 right now in the women's game. I think it's a credit to her that she could even play sevens when it was really the only professional sort of option for women's. Now she's applying her trade full-time in 15s, and she's kind of setting the benchmark of of what I think a front rower should be doing, from working the loose, carries or athleticism, but also a scrum, something which I think is actually not underrated, but sometimes people focus more on her carries. But I actually think she's a real set piece operator as well.
Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of Hope. I was once an opposition coach, and we had to obviously plan against that. And now we're having the opportunity to coach her and to see her firsthand, her work rate, her diligence to her preparation, and to be fair, her ability to play through injury and still perform at the level she does is second to none. It was interesting in WXV1. I didn't think she played particularly poorly against France, but she walked off really disappointed that she hadn't had the impact. And, unfortunately, we didn't get the result the following week. But her performance against Ireland was exactly what you described, those set-piece scrummage line out, but then also in general play, she does things that other props can't do. And it's a testament to the pathway that the US has. Obviously, playing sevens has added to that, her ability to use the ball, but I don't think there are many players in the women's game at the moment that go forward with the consistency and obviously physicality that she does. And there's probably no better person at that pick and drive, which obviously, Alex, in your day was one of your favourites, but the pick and drive 5 metres out, and you saw that against Australia way back in May. Hope Rogers around the ball usually ends up to 5 points. So yeah, massive fan here, but also credit to her for the work she puts in.
And just quickly, following on from that, like obviously at the last World Cup, probably set piece was an area that probably the Eagles against some of the top tier maybe struggle. But how valuable is it that you have all your best, or a lot of your best players actually playing in the PWR, where I think it's probably the best set piece league as well for the women's game, and they're playing around other internationals and that sort of level, that it's upskilling your team for when you come back together?
Yeah, it's massive. Obviously, everything you just said there, they're competing against the best in the world. They're getting quality coaches from the coaching staff over in the PWR. I have to push in here the coaching staff that I have as well. Mel Bosman, that's come up from New Zealand, has been outstanding for our set piece and has driven the execution and and I suppose the completion rate and accuracy of our set piece to another level this year. And we're excited to see where that'll build. And just a little plug for Sarah Chabot coming in as the defence coach. Like really valuable input from someone who's worn the jersey, but also coached in the men's game for a long time. So massive impact that they've had. But yeah, the set piece is what wins and loses games. So huge part.
Chabot also knows her scrums. I know well. We've had quite a few scrum debriefs where she's on obsessed like me. I like it.
It does lead to a pretty exciting coaching group when we do get a scrum penalty, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Sione, thanks so much for joining us. Wishing you all the best in what is a massive year for women's rugby, but of course for USA Rugby. Ilona Maher in a 13 jersey. I like the sound of that. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.